This is Nightline. I'm Brandon Wong. News making the headlines. Relieving public of corruption burden among PH's biggest achievement, says PM. And government and police file forfeiture suit against Datuk Sri Najib and wife. Good morning. Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad has touted rooting out corruption as one of Pakatan Harapan's biggest achievements as a first-time government ahead of the one-year anniversary of its general election win last year. According to the Prime Minister, PH is proud that the public has indicated that it is no longer burdened by the culture and expectation of having to pay bribes in order to achieve something. Speaking in a special interview ahead of the administration's anniversary, Tun Dr. Mahathir insisted that the PH administration is not simply renaming the previous government's ideas and initiatives, but also enhancing them. According to the Prime Minister, some initiatives were continued from the Barisan Nasional Administration as part of PH's responsibility as the ruling coalition. But those ideas were fundamentally improved on by stripping out elements of corruption and cronyism.
But we have to do the same thing without the corruption. So there is a difference. So it's not just doing what they have done. Any government will have to do certain things. And we are doing what is necessary, what is our responsibility as a government, but without the corruption, without the cronyism and that kind of thing.
In the same interview, Tun Dr. Mahathir also lauded the success in renegotiating the Bandar Malaysia and the East Coast Rail Link deals, which have so far saved Putrajaya billions of ringgit. He also reiterated his claim that some civil servants were against PH anti-corruption drive, since it has deprived them of earning extra pay. On the Premiership's succession plan, Tun Dr. Mahathir reiterated that he had already promised to step down after 2 years to give way to PKR President Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim. He added anyone who takes over from him is not required to follow his instruction nor to follow what was done by him. Meanwhile, Communications and Multimedia Minister Gobind Singh Dio said the stage is set for Tun Dr. Mahathir to deliver the first anniversary message of the new Malaysia at the Putrajaya International Convention Centre, PICC, on Thursday. Gobind said Tun Dr. Mahathir is scheduled to deliver the important message at 3:30 p.m. About 1,500 guests are expected to attend the event. The event will be aired live over TV3. A year after Pakatan Harapan has come into power, the Human Rights Watch said the government would make most of their reforms in the first year of governance. With political commitment, it said the pledges made in the coalition's 14th General Election Manifesto can be implemented without obstacles. Its Deputy Asia Director, Phil Robertson, said the government should not follow the direction of political wind on what is popular and what is not. PH marks its first anniversary of being in power on Thursday. In its manifesto, it promised sweeping changes, including reforming key government institutions and revoking certain laws that were deemed to be repressive. Among the laws that were to be repealed were the Sedition Act, the Prevention of Crime Act, POCA, the Security Offences Special Measures Act 2012, SOSMA, and the National Security Council Act, NSA. At a media conference in Selangor on Wednesday, Robertson said what would be an obstacle to PH in implementing such reforms was an opposition playing disruptive politics.
And when I go meet with ministers, the refrain that I constantly hear from them is along the lines of, hey, if it's in the manifesto, we're going to do it. In the manifesto promised in Article 27 that the NSA will be revoked. It's not to be played around with, it's not to be tweaked, it's not to be amended, revoked. The grants of authority given in that act go well beyond what is needed in the human rights respecting democracy, and the Pakatan Harapan was right to recognize the law needs to go. Now they need to find the political commitment to follow through on their promise.
In moving forward, Robertson also urged the government to reconsider its withdrawal from the Rome Statute.
Once you've made a decision that this is an important thing to do, you should follow through on that. We're hoping that the government will reconsider withdrawing from the Rome Statute, because we think that the International Criminal Court is a very important part of the infrastructure of the international human rights system.
Robertson said the political momentum is there for PH to serve the people with a 5-year mandate given to the coalition on May the 9th, 2018. The PH government should be given more time to fulfill the expectation of the people, as there is much to do. Ambassador and head of the EU delegation to Malaysia, Maria Castillo Fernandez, said the bloc will continue to support Malaysia's democratic process.
There is a lot of things to share in parliamentary reform, in judicial reform, in strengthening of institutions, also in helping to raise awareness about what are issues that are of concern, principles and values, and working with media.
Fernandez noted that the freedom accorded to media practitioners in the country was commendable. Fernandez, who was met at the Europe Day 2019 celebration in Kuala Lumpur, said this when asked to comment on PH performance since it swept to power on May the 9th last year. Youth and Sports Minister Syed Saddiq Syed Abdul Rahman officiated the event, which was attended by the 17 ambassadors of EU member nations. The government and the police have filed a civil forfeiture suit against Datuk Sri Muhammad Najib Tun Razak and his wife, Datin Sri Rosma Mansur, and several others in relation to jewellery, cash, handbags and luxury vehicles. The items were believed to be bought using One Malaysia Development Berhad, 1MDB funds. Bukit Aman IGP Secretariat Anti-Money Laundering Division Chief SAC Datuk Khalil Azlan Chik, when contacted, confirmed that the move follows 2 months of motion and supporting affidavits filed at the Kuala Lumpur High Court on Tuesday to seize a total of 720 million ringgit worth of items from those individuals. The action was a follow-up to the seizure of the valuables by police last year at properties within the Bukit Bintang area and other places. The first notice of motion filed on Tuesday is to seize a property in the Klang Valley, cash, including foreign currencies, jewellery, handbags, watches and sunglasses said to be worth 680 million ringgit. The second notice of motion is to seize 31 million ringgit worth of items, including 27 luxury cars, cash, including foreign currencies, 29 bank accounts, as well as more watches and bags. It is understood that the hearing of the application will take as long as a month. The civil forfeiture action filed on Tuesday comes less than a year after the items were confiscated. Under the Anti-Money Laundering, Anti-Terrorism Financing and Proceeds of Unlawful Activities Act 2001, a seizure order made under the Act will cease to have effect after the expiration of 12 months from the date of the seizure order. If there is a prior freezing order, the 12 months will run from the date of the freezing order if the person against whom the order was made has not been charged with an offence under the Act. The 12-month deadline in this case falls on May the 16th. Meanwhile, the criminal trial of Datuk Sri Najib involving the alleged misappropriation of funds from SRC International Sendirian Berhad enters its 15th day at the High Court in Kuala Lumpur on Wednesday. The High Court was told that there were 2 transactions involving more money transfers totaling 170 million ringgit from the accounts of 2 construction companies into SRC International Sendirian Berhad's account. Maybank Kuala Lumpur Assistant Manager Halija Abdul Wahab, 46, confirmed the transfers of the money based on 2 Maybank account statements under Permai Binaraya Sendirian Berhad and Putra Perdana Construction Sendirian Berhad. She said this during examination-in-chief by DPP Sulaiman Koh Keng Fui. The 31st prosecution witness said the transfer of 30 million ringgit from Permai Binaraya's Maybank account was carried out on January the 7th, 2015, while the 140 million ringgit was transferred from Putra Perdana Construction's account on December 12, 2014. Permai Binaraya Sendirian Berhad is a subsidiary of Putra Perdana Development Sendirian Berhad, while Putra Perdana Construction is a subsidiary of Putrajaya Perdana Berhad. She said the transfers were carried out after the bank received instructions for a money transfer that went through several processes, including signature verification and customer's financial position. Asked by Defence Counsel Tan Sri Shafi Abdullah if there were protests from Maybank's customers pertaining the transactions, the witness replied no. The trial before Judge Muhammad Nazlan Muhammad Ghazali continues on Thursday. The Kuala Lumpur High Court on Wednesday fixed May 24th to hear the prosecution's application for a joint trial of Datin Sri Rosmah Mansur's money laundering and 1.5 million ringgit bribery cases, and her former aide Datuk Rizal Mansur's graft case, both involving a project to supply solar energy to rural schools in Sarawak. Datin Sri Rosmah Mansur is facing 17 charges under the Anti-Money Laundering, Anti-Terrorism Financing and Proceeds of Unlawful Activities Act 2001. High Court Judge Muhammad Zaini Mazlan set the hearing date when the three cases were called up for mention on Wednesday. After hearing the prosecution's and defence arguments, the judge ruled that he would like to proceed with the hearing of the joint trial application. Previously, the Attorney General's chambers had made an oral application for a joint trial of the three cases. In a related development, the funds received through the repatriation of 1MDB assets will be used to service the fund's debt amounting to 51 billion ringgit. Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng said the funds will also be used to pay legal and litigation costs arising from efforts to repatriate and dispose of 1MDB assets around the world. In a statement, he said this sum includes the amount of interest borne and loans from the Ministry of Finance of 8.6 billion ringgit that were used to repay 1MDB debts to date. The Attorney General's chambers on Tuesday announced that 1.3 billion ringgit from 1MDB assets is to be returned to Malaysia following the US Department of Justice Kleptocracy Asset Recovery Initiative. This amount constitutes a portion of the $4.5 billion that the DOJ had found to have been wrongly diverted from 1MDB. Bank Negara's decision to cut the overnight policy rate, OPR, by 25 basis points to 3% on Tuesday was due to external factors that have dampened global trade and investment. According to Maybank IB research, the trade war risk amplified over the weekend as US President Donald Trump renewed threats to raise tariffs on $200 billion in imports from China by 25% this Friday. Affin Hwang Investment Bank Berhad concurred with the statement as prolonged external conflicts had dragged down Malaysia's gross domestic product GDP in the first quarter of this year, with global demand slowing. It expects the country's GDP growth for 2019 to stay at 4.7%. RHB Bank, meanwhile, said besides unresolved trade tensions which had dampened the global economy, the move was led from heightened policy uncertainty which could lead to sharp financial market adjustments. As for Alliance DBS Research, the cut will likely provide a boost towards economic growth as banks lower their lending rates, which could indirectly increase consumer spending power. On further rate cuts, AmBank Research said there is a chance for a second later this year or in early 2020, should potential incoming data remain weak. Monspace directors pleaded not guilty to pyramid scheme charges. Details when we return.
Every Friday on Nightline! Woo! Whoa!
Welcome back. It is still business as usual for restaurants during Ramadan in Kelantan. Deputy Kelantan Menteri Besar Datuk Muhammad Amar Nik Abdullah said the directive to close restaurant operations between 8:30 p.m. and 10 p.m. throughout fasting had yet to be implemented. Datuk Muhammad Amar said the directive, which was issued by the State Secretary's office on Monday, was supposed to be implemented immediately. However, the directive had to be studied by the local municipal councils first. He added the local municipal council had yet to distribute the circular to restaurant operators.
Kita kerajaan negeri menghormatilah semua pandangan komen itu kita dengar, kita terima. Cuma kita harap semua pihak melihat isu ini daripada sudut yang positif. Kemudian yang kedua ialah arahan ini dikeluarkan daripada pejabat setiausaha kerajaan negeri kepada pihak berkuasa tempatan. Jadi baru di situ, baru belum sampai ke bawah lagi. Jadi tidak sepatutnya benda ini jadi isu. Sebab itu baru diperekat pentadbiran kepada peniaga-peniaga tak sampai sebarang arahan lagi.
Datuk Muhammad Amar said this to reporters after the State Exco meeting on Wednesday.
Kemudian yang kedua ialah
Monspace founder Datuk Sri Jessie Lai and 2 executives were charged at the Kuala Lumpur Sessions Court on Wednesday with promoting and carrying out a pyramid scheme-based investment last year. The trio, including Wong Tat Fung and Chai Ling Moy of Monspace Mall Sendiri and Berat, however, claimed trial to the charges before Judge Marina Muhammad Noor. They were charged under the Direct Sales and Anti-Pyramid Scheme Act. For the first offence, they will face a maximum penalty of a 200,000 ringgit fine or 5 years imprisonment, or both if convicted. For the second offence, they may face a fine of between 500,000 and 5 million ringgit or 5 years imprisonment, or both. They were accused of committing the offences at 2 premises in Puchong, Selangor between June 14th and July 19th, 2017. The court set bail at 400,000 ringgit for Datuk Sri Lai, 200,000 ringgit for Chai and 20,000 ringgit for Wong. They were also ordered to surrender their passports to the court. The case was fixed for remention on June 14th. In Selangor, police have busted a Macau scam syndicate with the arrest of its mastermind and 15 others, including 2 teenagers. Selangor Commercial CID Chief ACP Fazli Sham Abdul Majid said the syndicate is connected to 38 cases of Macau scams nationwide, with 11 of those in Selangor. The syndicate is believed to have recruited the suspects as customer service officers with a monthly salary of between 2,500 and 3,000 ringgit each. All the suspects have been intensively trained by the syndicate to impersonate others. Their modus operandi involved the recruits impersonating bank officers before deceiving the victims into transferring money into another account.
Kemudahan penginapan, makan dan minum ditanggung oleh sindiket. Dan mereka ini diterima bekerja tanpa sebarang syarat-syarat kelulusan. Mengikut soal siasat yang dijalankan, apa yang kita dapat adalah mereka ini memohon kerja dengan sindiket ni melalui telefon ataupun perjumpaan di kedai-kedai makan dan di situ dia ada simple interview sebelum dia ambil bekerja.
Investigations revealed that the syndicate operated at several other premises and was often on the move to avoid detection by authorities. The suspects were picked up from Taman Serdang Perdana and Jalan Taman Sri Sentosa on April the 29th. In the 2 raids, police also seized 9 mobile phones, 2 laptops, 23 impersonation papers and documents containing personal data of victims. The case is being investigated under the Penal Code for fraud. So far this year, Selangor police have recorded 129 Macau scam fraud cases involving losses amounting to some 7.5 million ringgit. The Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission, MCMC, on Wednesday denied allegations that certain individual mobile phones were being monitored and spied on by the authorities in the country. The Commission, in a statement, said such claims were false and baseless. It also said, as a regulatory body which oversees the development of the communications and multimedia industry, the MCMC does not monitor or spy on content uploaded by users on the WhatsApp application. In Pahang, an unemployed man has been arrested for robbing his ex-wife at knife point in front of a mosque in Felda Jendera Utara in Temerloh. The 32-year-old suspect was detained early on Wednesday before being brought to the Temerloh Magistrates Court to be remanded. The court's Assistant Registrar Hayatul Hafifi Hisham issued the 5-day order, which begins on Wednesday. The case is being investigated under the Penal Code. In Kuala Terengganu, part of Masjid Haji Muhammad in Batu Buruk, Kuala Terengganu, collapsed after Tarawih prayers Tuesday night. Fortunately, no one was injured in the incident, which occurred during a heavy downpour at about 10:30 p.m. Initial investigations revealed that the area which collapsed involved the dome area, which is under repair, causing the middle area of the mosque to be affected. It was understood that 4 people were reciting the Quran when the incident occurred, but they managed to escape unhurt. The mosque is now closed to the public temporarily following the incident. At least 10 killed in Lahore's suicide bomb attack. Details when we return. On to the foreign front. In Pakistan, a suicide bomb attack struck outside a prominent Sufi shrine in Lahore on Wednesday, killing at least 10 people and wounding more than 20 others. According to local authorities, the blast went off at a police checkpoint near the Data Daba Sufi shrine, one of the oldest Sufi shrines in South Asia. It is understood that the blast targeted a van carrying police commandos who were providing security at the shrine. 5 of the deceased were policemen, while the others were civilians. The death toll is expected to rise, as many are in hospital, some of whom were in critical condition. A Taliban faction, the Hizbul Ahrar, has claimed responsibility for the attack. Meanwhile, in Afghanistan, 2 militants were killed in a Taliban attack on an international NGO office in central Kabul on Wednesday, which set off a huge explosion and injured at least 9 others. Police said the attack started with an explosion outside the entrance gate of Counterpart International, an NGO headquartered in the United States that has been operating in Afghanistan since 2005. It was then followed by gunfight as other attackers tried to enter the building before Afghan security forces quickly swooped in and reportedly ended the crisis after nearly 6 hours. Security forces seized an explosive-laden vehicle from the attackers and rescued more than 150 employees of Counterpart International. In Japan, a car plowed into a group of kindergarten children in western Shiga region on Wednesday, killing 2. Liverpool stunned Barcelona to reach Champions League final. Stay tuned. Sports football, the UEFA Champions League. Liverpool produced one of the greatest comebacks as they trashed Barcelona 4-0 in their second leg of the semi-final on Tuesday, overturning the 3-goal first-leg deficit to advance into their second successive final with a 4-3 victory on aggregate. Divock Origi opened the scoring on the 7th minute as he pounced on the rebound from Jordan Henderson's effort to make it 1-0. Substitute Jorginho Wijnaldum doubled the lead after he steered home a low cross from Trent Alexander-Arnold before completing his brace 2 minutes later as he headed home Zidane Shaqiri's cross to make it 3-all. Origi then grabbed his second of the game after he slotted home a quickly taken corner from Alexander-Arnold, stealing a 4-3 win on aggregate. Jurgen Klopp's side will play the winner of Wednesday's other semi-final between Ajax Amsterdam and Tottenham Hotspur, with the Dutch side leading 1-0 from the first leg in London. And on to tennis, the 2019 Madrid Open. Roger Federer booked his spot in the last 16 as he cruised past Richard Gasquet of France in straight sets. Federer made a bright start, breaking Gasquet once to take the first set 6-2, before wrapping up the second set 6-3 in the match that lasted 52 minutes. He will now go on to meet either Morten Fuxowicz or Gael Monfils in the next round. And that's it for Nightline this time around. After almost 3 years, the newly renovated International Spy Museum is set to reopen this weekend, featuring 7,000 spy artifacts and dozens of interactive exhibits. I'm Brandon Wong. Thank you for your company. And to our Muslim viewers, selamat bersahur.